Welcome to Leadership Beyond Burnout. I'm your host, Dr. Kimberly L. Wilson, also known as Dr. Burnout. And this is the show for women in leadership and emerging women leaders. It is my pleasure today to introduce Casey Carpenter. In her own words, Casey has four strikes against her. She grew up shy, scared, introverted, and highly sensitive. Now, as a young professional, she grew tired of getting passed over for promotions because she was so quiet. She almost got fired from her first sales job because of it. But she dug in, she turned things around, and developed her communication skills from the ground up. Her methods have been road tested and applied over the years and are so practical that you can use them right away. Today, Casey is CEO and founder of Speak and Own It Communications. It's a leadership communications firm. Her strategies give women leaders the tools to not only capture the room while speaking, but to apply strategies to connect and lead, and to do it with confidence. Casey's story of perseverance has inspired both men and women, and she assures them if she can do this with all those strikes against her, that you can rock it too. Let me bring Casey to the stage. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you.
I am so honored to have you here today. And one of the things that I really want to share, I just love the name of your business, Speak and Own It Communications. And I believe it really speaks to just what a leader needs to embody, because if they don't share their voice and their vision, no one's going to want to follow.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And when I rebranded during the pandemic, I wanted a brand that was kind of sassy. So it took me a little while. I brainstormed with myself and I landed on, well, is it speak it and own it? And then I said, no, that's too many words. It's speak and own it. So thank you for that compliment.
Oh, absolutely. So I'd love to hear about that turning point and being so quiet. What was it like even coming up in the ranks, being so quiet? Because most of the time when I think of sales, and I've not been a sales professional, it seems like it's so aggressive.
Mm. That's a good point. It can be. And I think the big lesson for me was that you don't have to be really the loudest voice in the room. You don't have to be the most aggressive or the fastest person, that you can still be successful in sales. So, yeah, what was it like? Well, I was fortunate enough after a few bumpy fits and starts in my career, but I got really fortunate enough to land in an environment that had the training that I needed. It was a very homogeneous environment with tons of young people. Excuse me, and take a drink of water.
Oh, that's fine. Never mind.
Yeah, it's getting a little scratchy there. But tons of young people. So we were all really similar, and everybody was aggressive in a good way. Like, we wanted the business, we were hungry.
Mhm.
And the company had the best tools in the market, it had the best collateral. And quite frankly, we were the darlings of the industry because we had a certain look. I got to tell you, we were cute. That's really what it was. We were kind of cute. And we all had that young, kind of fresh faced look.
Mhm.
So I was in this environment, and even though I was always quiet, I do have a wicked competitive streak. I want to win.
Okay.
So I indeed I did. I got tired of sitting in the back and being thought of, oh, she's good at what she does. It's kind of like the difference between farming and hunting. I
Hmm.
probably won't always be the most assertive farmer. I mean hunter, excuse me. I'm a great farmer,
Mm.
but I had some really good ideas. I was passionate. And so I started to lead with that excitement and passion about the work. And that worked for me rather than always being so quiet because you get thought of as the nice kid, the worker bee, the do bee, the good girl,
Right.
and you can get passed up by being that way, frankly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've come across many women who feel as if they are caught between that, like you said, that nice girl and fear being called the bitch if they're overly aggressive or overly assertive. So they're not sure where to land to make the best fit. And sounds like you've road tested and honed those skills.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the environment also really supported me in doing that because, yeah, we were all probably under 30, and we were
Okay.
like mavericks. We were really hungry, and we knew that in most of the accounts, if there was any competition that we were
Mhm.
going up against, chances are we would win all the business.
Okay.
We stood out, and the product was excellent, the collaterals were excellent, as I said before. So it was like the perfect storm. It was the right time in the right place for me, the right environment, the right people. Okay, so this was 30 years ago,
Hmm.
and I am still friends with a lot of those people today. And if
Wow.
you were to call them at 3 in the morning and say, what was the best job you ever had? They would tell you the name of that company.
Wow. Wow. That's
Yeah.
definitely cultivating some relationships. I don't know many people who maintain those working relationships. Now, the women that you tend to work with who really want to speak and own their positions, what are some of the challenges you feel like they come to that you've been able to solve and help them?
Yeah, well, the workplace is such an interesting animal these days. Frankly,
Absolutely.
I'm grateful that I can work with people on the outside as a consultant and not have to get on the 7:02 train every morning to go down to the Wall Street area, New York City, because there's a lot going on. I mean, people are still sorting out their schedules
Hmm.
from return to work,
Uh,
and right, and so that in and of itself presents communication challenges because, oh, we need Betty to collaborate with on this. Oh man, Betty's not in today. She's off today. Okay,
right.
well, let's hit her up on video. So there's it makes a kind of clunkiness that's added to our communication. And added to that, I mean, frankly, we when and this, I don't have to tell you because of the work that you do, but that pandemic laid some sad stuff on us.
Yes.
There was a
It
lot.
exposed the seedy underbelly.
Well, that and some people and still are losing family members.
Mm,
I Here
wow.
I am thinking that we've moved on and we've moved out of this pandemic
Right.
phase. And I met a young-ish woman whose 53-year-old husband passed away in March. And I'm
Wow.
thinking, what? I'm in my mind, this was over and we had moved on, but no,
Right.
not at all. So these illnesses, people are still getting COVID. So there's that to
Wow.
deal with. And just the nature of the workplace where organizations really deserve to figure out what their culture is.
Mhm.
We can't go on what the culture was in 2019 and 2020 because that was a
Right.
totally different world. So we
Right.
have to think about right now, leader, what do you want to be to people, and how do you want to mentor them and have them want to show up and come to work and do their best? What are the organizations offering them so that they want to do that? So, to answer your
Yes.
question, I work with the leaders. I work with aspiring women leaders, not yet at the C-suite, but
Right.
they're working their way up. And I work with them on their leadership communication, their presence, and
Mhm.
their empathy because I
That's
uncovered a
important.
right? I uncovered a study. that said, and this was 2 years in a row, so from
Right.
2020 and 21, that empathy is the most valued leadership attribute that leaders can embody. And so, what
Mhm.
does that mean? It means listening to people in a completely different way. It means looking at them for what's really going on beneath the surface
Right.
and asking more than superficial questions. Don't let people get away with that. What's the unmet need that they're showing up with? And how can you, as a leader, as a superior, as a boss, how can you support them and help them not only get what they need to do their job, but maybe the also underlying emotional support that they need?
Yes, yes. And with that, we're going to take a commercial break and we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Araya McGarry. I'm the host of Get Celebritized with Araya McGarry, right here Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Limelight Network, right here on E360 TV.
Welcome back. And you posed a very interesting dynamic about empathy being one of the very most important leadership traits. And I think one of the challenges with having empathy is being so overly empathetic that leaders begin to feel the burden to resolve the issues rather than, sharing how to funnel employees to the right resources and the
Mhm.
correct supports. I don't know if you found that they felt burdened or burnt out by being overly empathetic.
Some do, and some are have gotten really good at listening and hearing and directing employees to the right resources. But you run into some who are really empaths like me. And that's when it becomes difficult because you care so much about people that you start to take it on and you're worrying about them after work is over.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of people in corporate America, right? And even though it can be a challenging place and there are a lot of hard skills that are needed, there's also soft skills that are needed.
Right, right. Do you feel like those soft skills are as valued? Because when I was reading, I believe it, I, I don't want to mess up the study, but it talked about how some of the DEI and other soft skills and training were not as valued, even though women were getting this type of training.
Hmm. There's work to be done for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there's work to do. I think in terms of the communication piece, it's starting to come around,
Mhm.
and senior leaders are starting to see how important it is that their direct reports stop and really listen to their team members. What are they saying? What are they struggling with? I mean, I think it was easier when we all were kind of locked down in our homes
Yeah.
because that was a time that was unusually intimate. I mean, you were talking to somebody who might have been zooming from their bedroom,
Right.
right?
with
And
with kids and dogs and
correct.
all sorts of craziness
Yeah,
going on, but they're connected.
they're connected. And we never really had that kind of viewpoint into each other's lives like that before on such an intimate level. So now we've pulled back a little bit. We're back at the office, or alternating, whatever, for the most part.
Right.
And it is a little different. And I think the challenge to Kimberly is that it's shifting. This thing is dynamic. It's constantly changing.
Right.
It's there's always some outside force that's impacting the way people feel. I mean, I'm thinking about the recession. I got to ask you, is this recession here? Is it over? When did it start? I'm confused. They've been talking about this thing for a year and a half. I don't know.
It feels like just a Ferris wheel that keeps going around and
Yeah.
round, and there is no end. And I think it's so interesting when you talked about earlier about the pandemic not really ending and that people still being impacted by COVID. And I know New York was hit so hard.
Oof.
So I guess it would stand to reason that they would still have lingering effects, because I don't think I know anyone who's still experiencing COVID symptoms, but I'm so glad that you shared that with our audience.
Yeah, it's real. This that saying, the struggle is real. It is.
Oh man.
Yeah, because when that woman shared that with me, I thought, wow. And she was like, in 2 days he was gone, and I was like, that is crazy.
That is
And
unbelievable.
it's unbelievable, and very sad, and it's part of what's going on right now.
Right, right. And I want to pivot back. I know I took us back there, but what are some of the main things that not having a voice, how does it impact women's leadership?
Mm. Yeah, I coached someone like this recently, and
Mhm.
it leads to a lot of frustration, feeling marginalized.
Right.
Sometimes it happens in a male dominated environment where a woman leader might simply feel outnumbered, and she doesn't know how to just command the room.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's not that. It could be that that a leader really is growing into who she is, and she hasn't yet evolved there, so she's figuring out how to communicate with other people. But it can definitely lead to feelings of frustration, sometimes feeling belittled. And this is an
Mm.
interesting description of feeling that who she is doesn't match her title. So the
Mm.
title might be senior vice president,
Right.
but because she's not feeling that she's walking and living into that, it makes her feel more junior.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there's a misalignment between impact and her title and her sense of self.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow.
Yeah.
Do,
Very
do
well
you feel
said.
like that when they don't have that sense of self that matches the title, that peers or juniors don't respond to the title either if they're not speaking and owning it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that could cause a loss of respect,
Wow.
or having to work hard to get people to hear you and respect you.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whereas it could be completely different for somebody else who just says what they mean, and they don't care how it comes out. They're just talking. They're just saying.
Right.
So it's interesting to examine the workplace environment, and to look at senior leadership and ask, what kind of communication environment do you want to cultivate here? Do you
Mm.
want an environment where everyone is heard and everyone is heard equally?
Right. Or one where they people are silenced by being overpowered by the
Yeah.
loudest voice in the room.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That definitely happens.
Mhm.
And sometimes they just give up. They're like, well, that's just the way it is.
Mm.
And
After
you
after being repeatedly looked over, passed over, or ah, I think the thing that would irritate me the most is interruptions.
Yeah, I hate that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes you can have a boss on the senior level who's a driver personality, right?
Mhm.
And the reason why the division is successful is because of their drive. So it could be successful in terms of results, but when you step back and look at the people dynamics, it's not successful, because he could be
Mm.
just driving so hard that he's mowing people down, and they feel, well, what the, why are we even having this meeting, because it's just going to be the same thing.
Right.
They're going to just run the agenda and not ask anybody for input, so what's the point?
Right. Now, do you find that you have to sometimes coach women about that type of dynamic where they are talking over and sort of running over all their people?
Absolutely. So
Oh.
it goes both ways. Yes, because sometimes they don't have the awareness of how they come across.
Mm,
And it could be that others feel intimidated by them,
right,
that they come on too strong. They may feel that this boss is aggressive. I just want to say what I got to say and then run away. I don't even want to be in her presence.
right.
So absolutely 100%. And the way that I get there in my practice is I do what's called a 360 assessment, which is it's an instrument, or I do interviews myself where the leader who I'm working with will have me go out and interview their peers, their direct reports, and their boss. So that's why it's 360, because you're getting
Mhm,
that 360 scope of
right,
what's going on. And I'm lucky because I have a way of getting people to just relax, and they tell me the truth. They tell me what's really going on.
right.
So it's all anonymous, it's all confidential. I compile a report, and then I sit with the leader and we look at it, and we talk about, okay, well, what themes, trends, and patterns do you see here in this report? And
Mhm,
if a lot of people are saying, oh, well, so and so is abrasive, we got to look at that,
right,
right?
right, right. So I'm getting ready to throw a bomb in here, but we're gonna take a commercial break before I hit you with this one.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stockham, and I'm host of Simply Sarah. Join me Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific on the Achieve TV network for the best energetic tools to elevate your amazing life right here on E360 TV.
Okay, we're back. You ready for the bomb?
I'm ready. Throw it.
So you triggered something in me when you
Mm,
said abrasive,
hmm
and when I think about the workplace culture, and we think about different cultures in there. There are some cultures that are often seen as abrasive and told that they are abrasive simply because of who they are and the skin wrapper they're in. Have you found that and had to
Mm,
possibly correct the perception
hmm.
in the workplace, or that hasn't been your experience yet?
Fortunately, not a lot of it, but some,
Mhm.
and can I call it out where I think you're going?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So perhaps dealing with women of color,
Mhm.
and depending on how they're showing up, there may be a certain response or reaction to that.
Mm.
So we do take a look at that and look at the dynamics of everybody else who they're engaging and interacting with, the stakeholders. And yeah, I just remembered something when I was working with someone who yeah, it was more that this person was just breaking a lot of glass, just
Mm.
demanding. That's the
Mhm.
word I'll use for them. That was the perception, that they were demanding. Really good at their job, though.
Mm.
So the work was impeccable, but yet there were these personality quirks that made it hard for some people to work with this personality type, this particular style. So yeah, same thing. We do the 360. We take a look at the feedback.
Mhm.
I have them reflect on the feedback. What do you think? Tell me how you would want your colleagues to view you,
Right.
and what behaviors will support that, so that we can incrementally start moving them away from some of those behaviors that might be construed as obnoxious.
Obnoxious.
Obnoxious. I that's a word that I've heard.
Wow, that
I
would
know.
definitely be sobering to hear that feedback that your leadership is obnoxious.
I know. I know. And sometimes they're not aware of it, and sometimes they are aware of it, and maybe it's an issue where they feel that they haven't gotten what's promised. So they're
Mm,
being vocal about it.
right, right.
And so then sometimes I have to ask, well, if this were a dude, would it be viewed the same way? Got to
That
look at that.
that's an excellent question. And when I think about women who don't have a voice, I often think about them just experiencing burnout because there's a lack of this feeling of professional efficacy in their ability to control the outcomes in their world.
Yeah.
Is that when you're seeing women, or is it just prior to reaching burnout?
It's probably prior, and yeah, and there's always some element of burnout in there,
Mhm,
where you know what, they're tired. I
mm,
don't have to tell you, they're just worn out, and it's because a lot of the women I coach are, how to say it, maybe in the 40 to 55 span, where
right.
they have families, so there are kids and perhaps a partner, and just those dynamics of getting, keeping the family together, dinner or soccer practice, or I'll never forget, I was meeting with a client, and she said, would you believe my kid just told me that he needs an apple pie by tomorrow?
That sounds like a Walmart trip.
I'm like, no, believe it or not, this person baked a pie, which was amazing. But yeah,
She's a
so
good
it's
mother.
she's amazing. So
I would
stuff
be at the store.
stuff like that pops up. Or mom, my uniform's dirty. It's like, ugh. So I frankly, you know what? I don't know how they do it. I got to give
I
mad
have to give it
mad
up to
props
them.
to these ladies, really, because they're not only are they holding it down, they're bossed up at work. They are fabulous,
Mm,
and they've got home life. I mean, come on, is dad going to do that? Really? Not
right.
usually.
Mm. So,
So sometimes the tasks are gendered.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So, is there any time that you have to help them find their voice in setting boundaries
Oh
when
yeah.
they?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. We talk about setting boundaries. We talk about the wheel of life, and how, if you're looking at all of the areas of your life that make your life whole, and if you're out of balance in one place,
Right.
what's that doing to all of the other pieces of your life?
Right. Right. So,
Absolutely.
if you had to give one piece of solid advice to that young professional, that young
Mm,
emerging leader who's trying to get to the C suite, who
yeah.
just feels silenced and possibly even hopeless that
Mm,
she can effectuate any level of change, what would that one piece of advice be?
yeah. I would invite her. It's hard to give just one piece now. You know that, right? But I would
Well,
invite
how about top three?
Okay, I would invite her to seek out some mentors and sponsors, people who can start to bring her presence into the rooms where she is not.
Mm,
And I would also encourage her incrementally to start speaking up more. And this can be done, thinking about a meeting. All right, so what's on the agenda? So, what's one point you could make either in support of something, or maybe you want to offer another perspective? Get
mm,
your voice heard in the meeting early, because then you're going to feel a sense of victory and confidence. Yeah, I did it. I spoke up early. And to just, even if that's hard for you, to be the best listener in the room and the best observer, so that you can build on what other people say. So you don't have to
mm.
be the smartest in the room. You don't have to come up with the most original thought. It's also about staying connected with what's going on and helping other people synthesize what's been said. That's a really important skill.
That is. That is because I know sometimes I've been in meetings and there's so many ideas flying. It's
Yeah.
like, what are we doing again?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
can somebody read back to me, because are we doing this one or are we doing that one? So,
Yeah. Yeah. And if you
absolutely.
have one person who's really good at saying, I want to take a pause for a minute and go back to what Sarah said, because Sarah said blah, blah, blah. So she's edifying and elevating Sarah. And then I want to build on what Bill said, because if we combine what the two of them said, maybe we've got a viable solution. And I'm going to invite us to consider that.
Right. That is some wonderful. You really gave our listeners some nuggets to be able to begin to open up
Oh,
and
good.
and,
Good, good.
develop. And I put your website down here if they want to find out more about how they
Perfect.
can speak and own it, and really change the trajectory of their career. And it sounds like their lives as well.
Oh my gosh, what it does for your confidence, skyrocket.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for being here with us. You've provided so many valuable insights and thoughts and things to consider. And I know that someone's life has been changed just by listening to some of the nuggets that you've had to share.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So until next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching today. I'm Dr. Kimberly L. Wilson on Leadership Beyond Burnout, and I'll see you next Thursday at 5 p.m. live.